Five. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our breakdown of UFC 276, Adesanya versus Cannonier, a stacked UFC card from International Fight Week in Las Vegas this weekend to kick off July. A really great card. I mean, with two title fights at the top, not only Adesanya defending his middleweight belt, but also Alexander Volkanovski defending his featherweight belt, fighting Max Holloway for the third time. It's going to be an awesome night of fights. I'm joined as always by Nick to break them down, go through, see how our thoughts are here towards the end of the week. Nick, how are you today?
Good, man. Yeah, International Fight Week. It's almost always the biggest fight card of the year, at least for the past few years. And yeah, I mean, top to bottom, really, we're getting a lot of great fights here, a lot of really intriguing style matchups. And yeah, I mean, Izzy gets to defend his belt, which I know you're excited about. But I mean, Volk Max 3 is really an awesome fight. You're getting two guys in the top 10 of the pound for pound rankings fighting each other. That's very rare. We don't see that very often. So really stacked card. Definitely looking forward to breaking it down with you.
Absolutely. We will start right at the top with the middleweight main event. Israel Adesanya, minus 450 favorite, taking on the challenger Jared Cannonier. Someone who has looked good. I mean, put together a nice win streak since his bout with Robert Whittaker. Obviously, you know, in a division lacking too many great, true top contenders at this point. Cannonier getting this call after his knockout win of Derek Brunson. A great fight. I mean, he took over. Both were kind of looking, you know, sloppy just partway into the second round when he did land big and put out Brunson. But yeah, I mean, this fight, you're going against arguably the best striker of all time. Somebody who, you know, regardless of power, and Cannonier definitely has it, as, you know, former opponents have. It's just Izzy's ability to win those striking exchanges, don't get touched, and thus the power advantage that Cannonier has doesn't make a difference if unable to close the distance and put, you know, hands on him effectively. I mean, you know me with Adesanya, he's my guy. I pick him every time. But I mean, this is a fight that should, you know, look similar to his fight with Paulo Costa, one where the more aggressive power striker is going to be playing from the behind and just not able to keep up with someone in Adesanya who's so good on the feet, so technically sound, and you know, able to hit with, you know, a wide arsenal of strikes that Cannonier really will have difficulty you know, defending against.
Yeah, I mean, the line is getting a little bit ridiculous now, like 450. But I think Adesanya is definitely the right side here. We've seen similar matchup, like you said, with Costa. I do think Cannonier is going to fare a little bit better. Costa was drinking his wine the night before, really did not look like he belonged in the cage with Izzy. I think Cannonier is at least going to be there for a round or two and make it a little bit interesting. I imagine he's going to try to engage in some grappling, which could work early. But I mean, Izzy's takedown defense continues to improve, and Cannonier is not some credentialed wrestler that I think he's going to really get that game plan off successfully or consistently. I mean, I guess you give Cannonier a puncher's chance. That's really his only chance, though. Izzy in the big cage in Vegas, I just see him dancing around the ring. He's going to be switching stances. It's going to be very tough for Cannonier to close distance on him. And yeah, I think it's telling that Adesanya is really talking about hopefully looking for a finish in this one. I think he knows that when he fights some of these bigger guys, I mean, at least the Romero example, I don't know, he kind of takes his time and picks them apart, and he wins via points. But yeah, I think he hears the noise, and he doesn't want to be doing that. He's now one of the UFC's highest paid fighters. I think he wants to have a flashy performance here. So I kind of think he gets it done inside the distance in the later rounds. So yeah, I'm on Adesanya, and still, I think this is just not a great matchup. And just to play a little bit of MMA math, because why not? I mean, we saw Whittaker pretty much dominate Cannonier, and obviously Izzy had a close fight with Whittaker, but he won. He beat him twice. So, I mean, just off that alone, I think we kind of saw Cannonier's ceiling against Whittaker in that fight. And I don't know, I'm just not that impressed by him overall. Like, he has looked good, but he kind of just floats around the top five. I really don't see him as like the second or third best middleweight in the world or anything like that. So yeah, it's Izzy all day here. Minus 500, though. It's tough to really eat that money line. I think you could probably tie him into a few parlays. But I think inside the distance is close to even money. So that's probably where I'd go if I'm backing Izzy.
Yeah, and you could definitely get a plus price on the inside right now. It is always tough with Izzy. I
Yeah,
like
it's
to see
scary.
exposure tying him in with everything, but rather than the inside outside. But yeah, this is one again. Cannonier, we'll see about 5 round cardio. How he's going to look in this spot if even is going that long. I think he knows he has to take those risks. Early if he wants to get the belt off of Izzy. And yeah, just the counter game is probably going to be too much. I see him getting caught with something.
Yep.
All right. The co-main event, a very good fight just prior to that. Bout between Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway. Now for the third time. Really two of the best pound for pound fighters in the world. It's a treat we get to see them, share the cage for what could be another 25 minutes with one another. The first fight, Volkanovski wins the bout. Takes the belt off of Max. Close decision, but Volkanovski won. More controversial the second time around. A lot of people giving the fight to Max Holloway, myself excluded. I think Volkanovski, did enough in the third, fourth, and fifth round. It was great to see him rally because Holloway definitely did come out more aggressive and won the first two in the rematch. But yeah, again, Volkanovski just so technically sound everywhere. I love how active he's been. He's improving every time we see him step into the cage. That fight against Korean Zombie, I mean, he really didn't get touched. And Holloway's someone who's going to put hands on him. It's just not somebody that I see having a great path to find a finish against Volkanovski after, already the 50 minutes that they've shared. Volkanovski, I think, is going to be able to, again, hit Holloway with the more meaningful strikes. May not win every round on the volume, but he's just such a smart fighter, so well rounded. And I have a hard time finding him losing this trilogy fight. I mean, it would be going to the scorecards if Max is to get the win. And, I just think right now Volkanovski's fighting at the higher level. And even though his recent performances are a bit closer, the Ortega fight compared to, what Holloway was able to do to guys like Cater. I still think Volkanovski's the better 5-tool fighter, and I see him keeping the belt here. But close fight. I mean, definitely minus 200. It's hard to back him. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the line is off as far as I'm concerned. Minus 200 seems a little bit weird. So I get it. I mean, we've seen more of Volk lately. We saw him dominate Zombie. But I was listening to an interview with one of Zombie's coach, Santino DeFranco, and he was saying like Zombie did not show up that night. So I mean, obviously Volk looked amazing, but I think Zombie's just like kind of on his way out. Maybe he has 1 or 2 more fights, but he's not who he was. So as dominant as he was in that spot, I'm not necessarily as impressed by it as maybe the odd makers are here. I mean, what was impressive was really the Ortega fight. I know he almost got caught in a couple subs, but he really doesn't have that threat here against Max. But just to work his way out of that and just show that spirit and will to kind of fight out of that, the mountain guillotine and then less so the triangle choke. But I mean, that really sold me on Volk. The first time they fought, I backed Max. I wasn't pumped with the decision, but rewatching the first fight, it belonged to Volk. I think Dana said after the first fight he thought Max won, which was off. But then the second fight, I mean, the first 2 rounds are probably the most convincing rounds of the 10 they fought, the 2 that Max won in the second fight. I thought he won the third. I think there's an argument even to be made for the fourth, but the end of it kind of Volk took over. And lately, judges have been scoring like the last minute of rounds heavier than the first 4 minutes. So I don't know. But at this price where we're getting Max, like I'm just looking across a few books now, plus 175, plus 160-ish. Like the way judges have been going lately in some of these main events, if it's a really close razor thin decision, like I don't know, I think I'd rather be on the plus money here. I did back Volk last time and I thought he lost. I was happy though because I know we cashed some parlays on it. But I don't know. I'm leaning Max here, and like I think he could just do enough to keep it close, and then you're going to deal with 3 judges who maybe don't know what they're looking at. Max likes to call Vegas the 8th island. There's going to be a lot of Hawaiians in attendance. This is going to be, I think, the first they fought in Abu Dhabi, right? This is the first time with the full crowd that this trilogy is taking place, or is that wrong? But this is the first time Max is going to really have the crowd on his side. I think that's going to be a bit of an advantage here. it feels close to a coin flip to me. I wouldn't be shocked if Volk really implemented more grappling, and I think that's the way he could look like the minus 200. But in the bigger cage against Max, who actually does have really good takedown defense, I don't know that that's going to be easy. We hear Max all week talking about how he wants to finish inside 3. Volk's like, I want the finish, but I'm not expecting to find the finish. So I don't know. I think we see 5 rounds here. These guys have already fought with each other for almost an hour, which is insane to think about. Really evenly matched, 2 of the best featherweights in UFC history, 2 of the best pound for pound fighters in the world. Super excited for this fight, but I think if you're backing either on the money line, you got to kind of go on the plus money with Max. I just think, I don't know, I can't lay 200 on Volk here. It's going to be a close fight. And I think it's going to be a little closer than people think, because people are really like, wow, Volk looked ridiculously good against Zombie, but Zombie had nothing for him in that spot. And I think Yair took so much time off. No one was really expecting him to look that good against Max, but Max pretty much still 50-45 him, like unanimously. Like it wasn't as close as I think people thought. I think it just felt closer at the time because he was like a minus 1,000, which looking back, like even if you put Volk against Yair, like that's not going to be a minus 1,000. Like it was just a bad line. And I think that kind of skewed people's perception as well. So this is a weird one. It's really close. I'm not going to be surprised either way. I do think it goes to the scorecards. I think the over 4.5 is like minus 130, minus 140. I think that's a pretty good bet. Maybe that's safer than either side, honestly. Like I'd probably rather take the over on the 4.5 than expect either of these guys to get finished. I think Max has been finished once his whole career, and Volk never. Like I don't know. I think we're going to decision here, and I think you're getting a better price than you are on Volk. If you like the Volk side, maybe just go over. And then I mean, I love Max. He's one of my favorite fighters, even though I faded him in the last matchup. Yeah, I think he could get it done here. So I'm leaning Max right now. It's not a confident play by any stretch. I just think all the value's on his money line.
And yeah, I like the look on the over. Again, Holloway, if he is going to get the win, I do not see him finishing Volkanovski in this fight. From the Volkanovski side, I mean, he could find a finish on Holloway, but I'm not expecting it, especially with having felt Holloway in the cage already for 2 fights. I don't think there will be an urgency for him to get him out after, the ability to get the win without doing so the previous 2 times. And then in addition to that, it's not only not been finished, but Holloway not knocked down. There's not been a knockdown recorded against him.
That's insane.
In the UFC. Insane stat. I mean, the chin can only hold up for so long, but his is insane. I think this one is probably going 5 rounds again. And yeah, I think the champ just proves to be the superior fighter, rather than cutting like Max does, the ability to maintain his cardio and, his strength later into the fight and, put the pressure on at Max based on the power coming back at him that, I don't think Holloway's going to be able to keep up with.
Yeah, I mean, I get the read, and I mean, that's what we've seen for the most part. But I will just say one more time, I think out of the 10 rounds they fought, the 2 most convincing rounds were the first 2 rounds of the last fight that Max won. So,
and the second was a round that I think Holloway actually was outstruck, but I mean,
he had the
you can still
knockdown.
call it. Right.
There's been no other knockdowns. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, awesome fight. I mean, we will see if the featherweight title switches hands. If these 2 will be running
if they
back
do, they're going to run it back again.
Oh, yeah. Man. I mean,
it's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, the featured bout, a very fun matchup. Sean Strickland against Alex Pereira at middleweight. We could be looking at the next contender for the belt. I mean, if Izzy defends at the top of the card tonight, you would think that the winner of this matchup would be next in line, especially with Pereira having the 2 previous wins over Izzy in kickboxing. This is a pick'em fight right now. There's great arguments to be made to either side. I'll let you get this one started. You're going with your guy, Sean Strickland?
Yeah, I've made a lot of money on Strickland on this run. Ever since I faded him against Brendan Allen, I've been backing him heavily, like against Uriah Hall, against Jack Hermanson, against Christoph Jocko, and we keep getting great prices on him. A lot of people hate this guy, and I understand it. When you hear him in media, he is truly psychotic. Like he just says things like he's like really cringy, like bro-y guy, but like I mean, I don't mind that in a fighter. And the thing about Strickland people don't realize is he is a credentialed grappler. When he started his career, he was grapple first. He kind of developed the boxing as his career came along. And I just think the hype on Pereira here has just gotten out of hand. So we see him come into MMA he's knocked out a few cans in Jungle Fight, knocks out a complete can in LFA, and then he comes in and fights Andre Michailidis. Michailidis, was he cut after that last loss? If not, I wouldn't be surprised if he was, but he drops that first round. Michailidis out-grapples him and then gasses out like he does in every single fight. I mean, we saw Modestas Bukauskas knock out Michailidis, who's no longer on the roster. He's one of the worst guys in any of the divisions he's fought in, unfortunately. And I mean, after that fight, we get Bruno Silva, and everyone's talking about, oh yeah, this is going to be a war. I know a lot of people back Silva there. Pereira did look good. I mean, he did win most of the striking exchanges, but when you see Silva's striking, it is terrible. Like, he's just throwing these looping shots, and he has power, and he's willing to eat shots to throw them, and like that's why he kept some of the exchanges close, but it was so sloppy. And I mean, obviously Strickland probably isn't the technical striker that Pereira is, especially not with the kicks, but he's a lot better than Silva. And additionally, Silva's shooting these double legs from like across the cage at terrible angles, and like every single one of them scored. He was scoring constant takedowns. He had trouble holding him down, but I mean, yeah, he's Brazilian, Silva, but he's not a grappler first. And Strickland knows it, man. We heard in his interview yesterday, he's like, the UFC was smart. Like, they're not going to put him against Brunson or Vettori. Like, they're just going to wrestle this guy. And so they're like, oh, let's throw him against Strickland, the dumb guy who's willing to stand and strike. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, UFC, but I'm probably going to wrestle. And I think he's going to wrestle. I've listened to Eric Nissick interviews. I've been following Chris Curtis since last week when he won. He's been talking about Sean wrestling. The narrative here is pretty simple. The winner of this fight's going to get a title shot. The UFC used to do a lot more of these matchups where they'd put like the title eliminator on the same card as the title bout. It's really good for drama. It's really good to build these fights. And I mean, obviously UFC wants Pereira to win because it's a bigger money fight. He's knocked out Izzy in kickboxing 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever it was. But I mean, it's a lot easier to sell Sean coming off this win as a title fight than it is if he beats another gatekeeper like Brunson or something. He knocked out the guy that knocked out Izzy, or he beat the guy that was supposed to beat Izzy. It's a much easier sell. And I mean, as obnoxious as Sean can be, like, he's gonna trash talk Izzy, and like, you know, Izzy loves that. You've even heard him in interviews say, Izzy yesterday was like, he's the little brother I never asked for. Like, Sean keeps making fun of his anime obsession, which is like a stupid angle, but it's getting Izzy. Like, it's a funny back and forth. I think they could sell that fight. And I mean, the odds makers see it too. Like, the UFC doesn't always get what they want. I heard Chiesa talking about this the other day. Great example. Kay Harrison was in the front row for that Nunez Pena fight, because the UFC probably would have signed her if Pena won that and set up that match. And then, yeah, Pena spoiled that party. Like, they don't always get what they want. The narrative's obvious. I think a lot of people are backing Pereira just on the narrative. But I mean, what we saw in that matchup, like, his striking looked good against Silva, but it wasn't great. And when he got in the clinch and he wasn't close, like, he did not look as good as people say he is. So I don't know. I think there's too much hype here on Pereira, especially on the line. Love Sean Strickland. We just bet before we got on the call. This is my guy here, man. And I'm probably not gonna take him against Izzy. I'll tell you that right now. But I do think he gets to Pereira here, and I do think he can do it convincingly, but whether by finish or decision. And I wouldn't be shocked if he won a striking contest, like just jabbing and keeping pressure on him and staying in his face. Like, Pereira is dangerous with the kicks, but Sean's pretty durable. He has one of the highest striking defenses in the division at like 68% or something. He has that Philly shell. Like, it's a tough defense to break. So I don't know. I think Strickland's getting overlooked. I think people want the Pereira fight, and that's why money continues to come in on him. But based on the two performances we've seen of him in the UFC, like, I know people are comparing the Jiri path, but Jiri took out 2 top 10 guys before he got to the title fight. This is Pereira's first, but like, I don't know. They're really fast tracking him because I think they know they have to. And yeah, I just don't see it. I think Strickland's the side all day. I think he mixes in the grappling. I think he could win via sub early or just grind out the decision. But I'm on Strickland here. Even money, come on. I'm going to be heavy on that.
Yeah, and yeah, Pereira's a killer. You're overlooking him, I would say.
He couldn't knock out Bruno Silva.
Yeah, I know. That Bruno Silva fight was a good one. He landed 90 more strikes than Bruno Silva was able to, and defended 6 of his 8 takedown attempts. Sure, we needed to get an impressive decision win, but I think this is a spot where he probably would be able to find the finish. I mean, what you may be, overlooking a bit with Pereira is the power that he possesses. You know, in 4-ounce gloves, this is not a guy that you want to be striking with at all. And that is why Strickland will need to shoot if he is to get a win in this spot.
He's going to.
But yeah, I think that he definitely will be looking to shoot early, but I'm not sure if it will be early enough. And against a guy like Pereira, I'm not sure he's going to find, you know, realize the success that you are expecting. You know, again, Strickland, he has great hands, and I would rate that as the better part of his game when compared to his offensive grappling.
Yeah.
He just, you know, performed well against some, you know, mediocre strikers and Jack Hermanson and, you know, Christoph Jocko, Brendan Allen. But I think Pereira is just on a technical level above him. I think that he's going to be able to, whether land big with left hook, spinning kicks, knees, he's going to have the, you know, cleaner lands on Strickland over the course of 15 minutes. I don't think Strickland can employ heavy wrestling pressure to keep this fight on the mat for, you know, more than 10 minutes. And I think Pereira will only need a few exchanges to get the better of a guy who, you know, likely will, for at least portions of this fight, stand and trade with him. You know, when it comes to Izzy, I think the winner of this fight may be his easiest, like, thus far. I think he makes work of somebody like Strickland, who, you know, really won't be able to keep pace with a technical guy on the feet, or someone like Pereira, who, you know, won't have the advantage in terms of mixed martial arts experience. That I would actually highlight a bit more, you know, if I were on the Strickland side. Obviously, his, you know, octagon presence, you know, that is why this would be pick'em, I would say. His ability to, you know, win these fights, find a way to win.
He should be minus 200.
And again, just against a high-level striker like this, I completely see why he is not. You know, it is, you know, he's sort of a gimmick fighter, but he also is a world-class 2-division kickboxing champion. Pereira's the real deal. He's bigger than Strickland. And I think, again, his takedown defense holds up enough to see him get the win. I think he lands big in an exchange and, you know, ends this little streak that Strickland's been on.
I don't know, man. I just think we're gonna see Strickland Magomedov here. He also spent a lot of this camp with Johnny Eblin, who just took out Gregor Mousasi for the Bellator belt. And Eblin shouted out Strickland in that post-fight presser. He's like, this guy really pushed me in camp. He gave me a lot of work. So you know that went both ways. I think that benefits him here. I think his grappling is going to be on point. I think he has enough defensive prowess to close the distance. I don't think you want to stand and trade with Pereira for 15 minutes. If he does that, he'll probably lose. But I don't think he's going to. I think he's going to stand and trade a little bit. Get a couple jabs off and make him think about the takedowns. When Pereira starts to think about the takedowns, that obviously compromises the power a bit too. So I don't know. Silva really got in on those shots. And you said 6 for 8 he defended. He took him down more than twice. Like, I watched that fight like last night.
Two takedowns, but two takedowns, 3 minutes of control.
And they were ugly entries, like really ugly entries. Like, I don't know. I just think Strickland can even body lock him against the cage. I think he has so many options here.
And
I'll give Pereira the puncher's chance. He has the kicker's. It's more of a kick. I'm more afraid of the kick than the left hook, honestly, because he can get that up there so quick. But I don't know.
I also would not overlook his work with former light heavyweight champion Glover Teixeira in the grappling department. I think Pereira would be live by submission if Strickland is going to be shooting in over and over. But
how long has he been with Glover?
With the Brazilian flag, I think since 2017 or 18, they've been working with one another.
What's he, a white belt? Is he a blue belt yet?
I don't know. Probably not as highly ranked as Strickland, but
Strickland's a black belt.
We'll see. You know, mixed martial
arts. All right, we'll see. We got a lot of money on it, and it's fine that we disagree. And I like that you're willing to put your money where your mouth is. So I'll give you your credit. Pereira is live for the knockout. It's what Dana wants. It's what the UFC wants. It's probably what Izzy wants, honestly. Because why not fight Pereira now before he actually gets good at MMA? Like, now's the time to take him out. Now's the time to get that win back. If you give Pereira another couple of years, maybe he really is a great fighter. But at this stage, it's just too green. And I did want to bring up one more thing. Do you remember a woman by the name of Abby Montes? Do you know who this is? This is who beat Clarissa Shields when
I thought it was
Clarissa Shields.
Elkins. I thought it was someone Elkins.
No, she beat Elkin.
Oh, okay.
Minus 240 against Abby Montes, world-class boxer.
Yeah.
Abby Montes, a little bit of MMA, a little bit of grappling. yeah, I don't
What
know.
would you? But
Gokhan Saki,
would you rather fight close to Shields or Alex Pereira?
Saruk Adeshev,
Just
like like all these glory fighters coming in. I don't know, man.
is there a lot of
Izzy's the only one who's really done much. I mean, Jacoby's looked good, but he had a bad run in the UFC before he had a good one. Like, I don't know. I just think there's too much hype on Pereira. He's getting old too. Like, I don't know. I don't see it. I think it's just too much hype. And he's dangerous. He's fun to watch. Like that knee against Michailidis was great. But Michailidis is maybe the worst middleweight in the division. He moved down to 170 after that fight. And he looked terrible at 170. Like, I don't know. It's just silly. I think the line is silly. And if you like Pereira, great. But like at this price of even money, it seems insane to me. But we can disagree. That's fine. On to the next one.
On to the next one. A welterweight bout. Robbie Lawler taking on Brian Barberena, another pick'em fight. Great fight. I mean, this is fight of the night potential, definitely, with the way these two like to throw down. Two southpaws going head to head. Lawler honestly looked great in the fight against Nick Diaz. Had a little tough start, but definitely got into a rhythm, was landing the bigger shots. And the losses prior to that really weren't that crazy. I mean, he lost to RDA, sure, but then he was a sizable underdog against some other killers like Magny, Colby Covington. He's definitely been fighting the higher level of competition than Brian Barberena, former champion, and he looks to be in good shape. He was talking about potentially even another fight before the end of the year. Love to hear that.
Yeah.
Against a guy like Barberena, I just feel like he is going to be a step ahead. While Barberena has looked good, again, when you see some of the guys he has lost to, when you see some of the, finishes he's been on the wrong side of, it does make more sense to, Lawler being the fighter I'd be comfortable backing in this spot. It is just, a fight that I'm expecting to, have back and forth moments, definitely be exciting and, could see either guy getting their hand raised. Barberena, I'd say, is a bit more, of a question mark, may throw a bit more volume out, but could get caught earlier. So, I mean, I'm probably not going to be too heavily invested in this fight. Robbie Lawler is my lean right now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Robbie Lawler as well. I'll play a little bit of devil's advocate here, though. I mean, this is Brian Barberena's Super Bowl, essentially. We've heard in interviews like he'd been asking for this fight for a while. And he said when he got the call, like him and his wife were like screaming and celebrating, jumping up and down. And Lawler's like, yeah, it's just a fight, it's whatever. So like I'm a little bit worried that he wants it that much more than Robbie does, and like that's my one fear. The other reason to maybe side with Barberena is the volume. Like he lands more than 2 significant strikes per minute. The one knock on Robbie lately is that it really does take him a little while to get going. He's not always throwing out that volume. But all that being said, I do think Robbie is just so much better technically, especially defensively. He looked okay against Diaz. Like I rewatched that last night, and Diaz had his moments. It was just, I don't know, all around that fight just didn't make me feel great because like I watched these two guys growing up, and I mean Robbie, he's aging pretty well. Like, but to see him in there with Dick, it was just kind of strange. So I'm not putting too much into that fight. I will say, like Magny dominated him, Colby dominated him, both grapplers. They both leaned on their grappling heavily. Robbie had moments in that 5th round against Colby, and he did have a couple moments against Magny before he was taken down in that fight. So he can still look good against top level competition. I mean, I thought Barberena lost to Matt Brown personally. I thought Brown kind of got robbed in that spot.
Awesome
so
fight.
it was an awesome fight, but they were both totally gassed by the end of it. So what I will say here, I think rather than just backing Robbie right away, maybe you can wait if you are at a book that offers live odds. This is probably going to be a great spot to do that. I think Barberena is probably going to win the 1st round. I think Robbie's going to win the 2nd and 3rd. That's kind of the way I see it going. I could even see Robbie getting a late KO here. I just think he's the better fighter. I think he's the better technical boxer. If he decides to engage in grappling, I think he's actually even the better wrestler here. I've heard some people talk about Barberena wrestling. I don't see it. I don't get it. But like I said, I mean, my one fear is that this is Barberena's Super Bowl, and to Robbie, this is just another night in the office. So that's my one concern. I probably won't invest heavily here, but from just like a technical standpoint, from a cardio standpoint, a durability standpoint, I'm on Lawler.
Yeah, and I mean International Fight Week, full of fans, elevated to the main card. I think Lawler's gonna
He's
be locked in
he's
for this
still
for
so
sure.
like aloof though. Yeah, he's just like, yeah, it's a fight,
Yeah,
it's cool.
but I mean the cardio too. I mean looking good and ready for 5 rounds in that fight against Diaz versus Barber
Yeah,
in his last performance, where he was tailing off. I mean it should be Lawler's fight the latter half, and yeah, either guy could get a finish. I'm expecting fireworks though. This should be a fun one.
agreed.
All right, and then opening the main card, could be the main event, honestly. Bantamweight matchup: Sean O'Malley taking on Pedro Munoz. The first real step up in competition for Sean O'Malley, taking on a long time, top 10 bantamweight, someone in Munoz who's never been finished. A great matchup. I mean, yeah, you'd think a striking heavy matchup. Munoz with the leg kicks, looking to get combinations off. Perhaps mixing in the wrestling against a striker as talented as Sean O'Malley. But yeah, I mean the two greatest strikers in the world tonight, Adesanya and O'Malley. I mean, come on, 7-inch reach, but also this kid's looked awesome. I mean, the
Yeah,
combinations he puts together, the technical ability, the commitment to training. I mean, everything's there. He's growing as a fighter. This is a step up that we've needed to see happen. And yeah, I think he passes the test. I think O'Malley really is somebody who, until it is a wrestling heavy guy that he runs into, guys in this division just have trouble with his power, with his ability to feint, with his ability to put together longer combinations, and use his size well. I mean, the north of 8 significant strikes landed per minute is crazy. And yeah, just out volume Munoz. Probably, step in, land something big. He has the ability to finish this fight. Again, with chins, they hold up until they don't. And, this is a spot where I could see with all the bright lights, O'Malley, kind of hunting that finish. But yeah, just got to stay safe, stay on the outside, probably be the cleaner fighter. Don't let the leg kicks get to him. And I think he pays off this 300 price tag.
yeah. I mean, I think it should be a little closer to 200, but I'm backing O'Malley here. And I mean, there's a lot of old heads that don't like O'Malley at all, and they look for every opportunity to fade him. I'm not that guy. Like, I like O'Malley. I think he's extremely talented as a striker. Love the feints. Love what he does. Love his ability to move in and out, switch stances, throw kicks. Um, his volume is unbelievable. And I mean, if you look at the top 15, even at bantamweight, if you're picking a matchup for O'Malley, you would pick Munoz. Like, I would even pick him over Edgar because Edgar probably is the better wrestling. I mean, Song's pretty dangerous. Like, I would, Ricky Simon has the wrestling. Like, even guys going up the rankings, like, I think Munoz is the perfect fight for O'Malley here. I think the UFC knows that. He's a cash cow. He sells tickets. He sells pay-per-views. There's a reason he's been on so many pay-per-views. He's always leading off these cards. We talk about the business sense with Pereira and what the UFC wants there. I think they wanted even more with O'Malley here. Like, they have more invested in this kid. They've been building his career. And yeah, this is just kind of a hand-picked matchup for him. Munoz is dangerous. He does have powerful leg kicks. That is his path. But to land those leg kicks, he's going to have to close the distance. O'Malley has a 7-inch reach advantage. He's going to be putting out more volume. And I think the big thing here is just the speed of O'Malley compared to Munoz. I mean, Munoz, when he's in the pocket, like if you're trading in a phone booth, he has some speed in his strikes and combinations. But that's kind of it. I mean, he's looked slow even against Cruz. Like, and if you watch the Aljo fight, he looks slow there. Like, and O'Malley's kind of faster than both of them, especially on the feet. So I like O'Malley here. I guess maybe a little bit of a wrench would be Munoz if he could get it to the mat. He does have really good BJJ, but he never, ever, ever takes the fight there. So I don't expect him to. I like O'Malley here. I do think the line's gotten a little bit wide. I like O'Malley by decision. I think that's probably the best bet. Munoz has never been KO'd. He's never been knocked down, I don't think even. He's just got a really sturdy chin. And I mean, yes, O'Malley has won by KO, but it's always these like it's either Eddie Wineland who's dust, or it's like these timing and volume KOs, and maybe he can pummel Munoz like he did Moutinho, but I don't necessarily see that. I think he's going to respect Munoz's power a lot more than a Moutinho. I think he's going to respect Munoz's power a lot more than even a Paiva, and he's just going to take his time, pick him apart at range, probably win a 30-27. And then, yeah, then he's in the top 10 and all those easy matchups are gone forever. So this is it. I think OMalley passes this test. Would it shock me if Munoz landed a few leg kicks, mixed in some grappling and maybe pulled off a decision? No, not totally. But I think the far more likely outcome is OMalley to win. I think the second most likely outcome is probably OMalley by KO. But I like the decision here a lot better. I just think Munoz is durable enough, and I think O'Malley's not going to really play in too close a range with him. I don't think he's going to put himself in that position. So we'll see. I'm taking O'Malley here. I'll probably mix him into a few parlays and things like that. But yeah, it's a real test, and people can't say it's not. Munoz has been in there with Aldo. He's been in there with former champs, and this is it. This is it. Time to shine, kid.
Yeah, and I mean, I won't be betting the over. I won't be betting the decision just because, you know, I am a big fan. But I mean, when you see Munoz trading with Garbrandt and just eating right hands like straight on
Fight, Garbrandt like, has power.
Yeah, it's like I really don't know if this is the one where like O'Malley's going to crack him and put him down. So yeah, I definitely get that look, and O'Malley probably is just safer, you know, parlay piece rather than you know, looking inside like I'm tempted.
I hear you. I mean, he wins so many inside. I get it. Like, I don't know. I just think Munoz is durable enough.
For sure. All right. Now moving on. The prelims, the featured preliminary bout, a lightweight fight between Brad Riddell and Jalen Turner. This is a close fight. Turner currently sitting the minus 145 favorite against Riddell. You know, Riddell's my lean here, but I mean, this is a really close fight. I mean, these are two talented lightweights. Riddell coming off the loss to Fiziev isn't great, getting knocked out like that. But I mean, Rafael Fiziev's a crazy high-level striker, and Turner isn't quite of that caliber, in my opinion. But I mean, he could put volume on Riddell. He's got size on Riddell. I could see Riddell having some problems in, you know, a straight kickboxing match here. But I could also see him mixing it up, making this an ugly fight if he's able to handle Turner's power, you know, mixing in the takedowns and finding a way to get his hand raised here. I'm definitely tempted on the dog money side, seeing if we could get, you know, the 3-0 parlay with him, Volkan, and Adesanya for, you know, Team City Kickboxing. But I don't know. This is a tough one. I'm still not entirely decided. You know, my final pick will be on our write-up on Dime Sports come Saturday morning. But Riddell's the early lean for me. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly not 100% decided either, but I'm on the Turner side. So it's similar but different. There's like a 5 or 6 inch reach advantage here for Turner. It's ridiculous that this man makes lightweight. Like, he was fighting at 170 when he got knocked out by Vicente Luque. But the fact that this guy is 6'3", making 155 and making it fairly easily and always looking great on the scale, that's baffling to me. This guy's like 0% body fat, ridiculous reach, really long frame, really sneaky good jiu-jitsu too. I actually think Riddell could probably score a few takedowns on him here. We saw that against Malarkey. The end of the first round, Malarkey was in a great position against Turner. But yeah, I mean, Turner's the more potent finisher. I think he's more dangerous. I think he's going to have the reach here. It's a pretty clear path to just kind of pepper him and then go for big shots when they're there. Riddell, extremely high-level striker. But, I mean, outside of that Drew Dover win, there's not too many wins on his record I'm that impressed with. I mean, you could kind of say the same about Turner, but it kind of feels like two guys maybe headed in opposite directions. The UFC did like this 30-minute expose on Turner. I think that's a little bit telling. I think they want this kid to get a little bit more hype. He's in the feature prelim here. I think they're trying to build his name, not Riddell's. I don't think there's much to gain from building a Brad Riddell. I mean, this is going to be a great fight. I do think they could sell pay-per-views with the war, but yeah, it feels like kind of the narrative on this one is that they want to get Turner a good look and crack him into the top 15. And I mean, he's going to have the reach here. Riddell's going to be willing to stand and trade. And if the fight does hit the mat, I actually like Turner's jiu-jitsu to potentially even score a sub. But all that being said, I mean, Riddell's just a dog, man. And if he doesn't go away, I'm a little bit concerned that Turner starts to gas in the later rounds. And if that happens, it could look ugly quick. So I think I'm closer to decided. I'm leaning Turner. But it's a tough one for sure.
Yeah, and just when it comes to the wrestling, these longer, like 6'3" lightweights, guys like Turner, Joel Alvarez, like sometimes they get controlled on the mat pretty easily. I don't know how much Riddell is going to be looking to take him down, you know, in a spot like this. And
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's a great fight. It really could go either way. I again think Riddell, just the experience and his ability to, go deeper into the fight, dig more out of himself. That's probably the way I'm going as the underdog side. But, we will see. Awesome fight.
Definitely.
All right, another banger. This is two legends here. Jim Miller taking on Cowboy Cerrone, a welterweight fight. This came together pretty short notice after Cerrone lost his opponent in Joe Lozon again, and Jim Miller was scheduled to be taking on Bobby Green for this fight here on the card today. I mean, this is awesome. These two are tied for the most wins in UFC Octagon history at 23. The winner will have sole possession of that record. Pretty crazy. I mean, what can you say? Miller's look pretty good as of late. I mean, a great, resurgence. The one knock I would say is he looks slow, and I kind of worry about that moving up to welterweight. He could look even slower, but still able to step in, put hands on guys. And Cerrone just as of late has not been able to, eat a shot. I kind of feel like this is a spot where, Miller is the rightful favorite, should be able to go out there and, get that finish early as he is accustomed to doing. But I mean, this is a little tougher. I mean, I was pretty confident in Lozon as a dog, going in against Cerrone here, but just the move up to the welterweight for the first time for Miller. When he said he was already cut pretty low in the 160s this week, it is of concern, but I still think he is going to, get the win, get the finish, get his hand raised as the 190 favorite. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, just one thing. I mean, the fight he won over Roosevelt Roberts, I think that was at a 160 catch weight. Just a side note. I mean, he hasn't fought at 170. I'm not too concerned about it though, and I think Miller's the side here for sure. The line's getting a little bit out of hand. That's like my only hesitation.
No,
but
back towards it. He was like a 240er now. Now we're looking at a 190 Jim Miller. So
okay,
improving.
I like that. Yeah, and I mean, I listened to all the media day yesterday and the day before, and Miller knows. He said, I've seen all the Cowboys' recent fights, and what you got to do is you got to go in there and take him out quick. He's like, and what better matchup for Miller than Cerrone? Like, Miller is a one-round fighter. I mean, he won that last fight via second round KO. He looks great early in all his fights, even against these young guys. And I think he's going to look great early here. Cerrone's been a slow starter. I mean, he had that win over Pettis that was controversial. Pettis has looked terrible in the PFL, so like, he really just hasn't looked good at all. And I mean, we were so confident in Lozon just kind of running in and taking him out, but we've seen Miller do that more often recently. We've seen more from Miller against the higher level of competition, consistently winning fights via KO for the first time in his career. It's like he finally found out how to strike, and he finally found his power, and it's pretty amazing. He was also talking too about how he knows he carries more power up at this weight. Like, there was talks with his team back in the day about going up to 170 because he did have more power in his hands. So I'm not so concerned about the weight here. And I know obviously it benefits Cerrone to go up to 170, but that doesn't change the fact that he cut to 155 twice over the past month. Like, that's definitely a toll on his old body. I just think Miller wants it more. I think he's going to come out firing, and I just think stylistically, a one-round fighter against a guy who usually doesn't look good in the first round, it's kind of tailor-made. Miller's really lucking out here, though. He was supposed to fight Bobby Green. He probably would have got wiped, and this is the last fight on his contract. So negotiations would have been tough coming off an ugly loss, and now he gets pretty much a tailor-made fight against Donald Cerrone, and I think he's probably going to get a contract out of it. So I love Jim Miller. I like Cerrone a lot too, but I don't know. I've picked Miller a lot lately against Gonzalez, against Mota. So he's been a cash cow for me at dog odds, and now I'm getting him as a big favorite. I kind of like him inside the distance. I really don't see this going 3 rounds. So I like Miller here. The minus 200 feels a little chunky. I mean, if both of these guys in their prime, I think the line would be flipped, but they're not. And Miller's looked better lately. So I'll take Miller here to set that UFC wins record. And Cerrone's probably going to have to ride off into the sunset or go fight for Eagle, because I think Dana's going to be done with him here, unfortunately. The legend he is. But yeah, he's just further past his prime, I think.
Yeah, agreed. Miller's the side. Yeah, hopefully new contract, fighting UFC 300 as he's hoping. Still keeping it going and still looking good at this stage of his career. But it should be a good one. Prior to that, another fight, welterweight. more, younger side of the roster here. Ian Gary, the future, undefeated, taking on Gabe Green in, a good fight here. I mean, two guys that, like to strike, Gary more so. You will see, his speed, his feints, him using range well again in a matchup like this. The win over Darian Weeks wasn't great, wasn't the most convincing, but I mean, Gary did fight a smart fight, stayed at range, wasn't chasing anything, showed patience in the octagon. And I think Gabe Green is a fighter who's a bit similar. I mean, he may be putting on more volume and, looking to throw the hands a bit more than Weeks was trying to do with Gary. But I still think somebody like Gary should be able to keep on the end of his punches. It's not the most flashy of opponent. It feels like another sort of, setting up the future prospect here on ABC simulcast. It's a Gary spot. I mean, again, coming off that performance, kind of a discounted line here. And I see him doing enough to get the win, but curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, this is tricky, and I do think Gary's going to win, but I am not confident at all. I mean, Gabe Green, if anything, he's a dog. We saw that Johan Lioness fight last time out where it looked like he got KO'd multiple times, ate all those shots, and then returned it and won via KO. So we saw Green go the distance with D-Rod. Like, he's definitely fought the higher level of competition. I think there's a sneaky plus for Gary here if he decides to grapple a bit. Like, we haven't seen him do it yet in the UFC, but in Cage Warriors, he is a very good grappler. He has been working down at Sanford. I would like to see him kind of mix in the wrestling a little bit here, because Green is dangerous on the feet. And I mean, defensively, Gary has not looked good in either of his fights, really. I mean, Weeks just never really threw much. But even Jordan Williams kind of catched him in that first fight. I don't know. This kid is so young and he's so athletically gifted that I do think he could be a future contender. I just think he's still so far off. But the thing about Gabe Green and why I'm still going to pick Gary here, just defensively, he's absorbing over 6 strikes per minute. I as bad as Gary is defensively, I think Green's even worse. So I don't know. I'm going to take Gary here. It's probably going to be a close fight. I probably wouldn't tie him into parlays, but I guess he's the side. The UFC wants him to win here. I think they're giving him Gabe Green because they know he's going to be coming forward. Gary's going to have the chance to counter. But yeah, it could be ugly. So I'm not running to the betting window to back Gary here, but I do think he's the side.
Yeah, similar feeling here. I do like him. I think this is another spot where, especially coming off that last fight, he should be able to perform once again with something similar, if not better, which I think will be enough to get the win against Gabe Green. All right. And then prior to that fight, a very good middleweight matchup with Dricus Du Plessis taking on Brad Tavares. This is the third fight in the UFC for Du Plessis, and now he is getting, that kind of gatekeeper opponent here in the division to really test him. This fight was pick'em at the start of the week, but money has come in on the Du Plessis side, and it's a side that I already got, my action in on. I'm a big fan of him. The power, he really is able to throw, and, the 2 knockouts this far since joining the UFC are impressive to see. Great from both stances. Someone I think that Tavares, will have a bit of difficulty keeping up with on the feet, just based on the volume and, Du Plessis' ability to get in and out of range a bit more effectively than Tavares has shown. And then just in addition to that, I mean, Du Plessis talented on the mat as well. He can take fights there as he needs to, but also, a nasty guillotine choke he possesses for individuals that may decide to shoot on him. Tavares usually not one who is going to rush in for shots, but I see him struggling to keep up on the feet in this spot. Maybe going there out of desperation, but Du Plessis is able to land the bigger, better time bombs as well as counters on Tavares in order to get his hand raised here. Again, like him here, the line could keep going in his direction, so I may recommend getting action in sooner rather than later. But yeah, how are you feeling?
Yeah, this is one I'm not fully decided on yet. I've gone back and forth. It first was announced, I was kind of leaning Duplessis, and then I watched some of Brad Tavares' recent performances, and I don't know. I think he's going to have considerable technical advantages on the feet here. He's more defensively sound. Duplessis is extremely dangerous and powerful, but he kind of telegraphs everything. He throws big looping shots, and against a vet like Tavares, I think he could maybe stay out of danger. Duplessis is a good grappler. I'll give him that credit. But I mean, Tavares is some of the best takedown defense in the division, pushing 80%. I think he could keep the fight standing. It's just, I don't know, which is Brad Tavares going to look like Brad Tavares, or is he going to look like old Brad Tavares here? Like, it's tough to say. And I just think technically Tavares has all the advantages, but like we've seen a lot recently, like these young guys come in, like, I don't know, who was it that just knocked out Court McGee?
Jeremiah Wells.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like that. Like I give Court all the advantages in terms of technical ability. It's just kind of this changing of the guard we're seeing like throughout the UFC. Like a lot of these guys are getting up there in age. I will say this. I mean, Tavares had that win over Akhmedov. He was hurt. Like I think it was a shoulder or something. He ended up getting surgery on, but he just fought that fight anyway. And he still won, so that's a plus. But I mean,
Akhmedov's looked good, and Antonio Carlos Jr., his prior opponent, looked great.
He's a millionaire. Yeah. I know. But I mean, the loss via head kick to Edmund Shabazian, I think that's what you got to be afraid of here if you're backing Tavares. Like, I want to watch more Duplessis. Like, I'm trying to sell myself on him, honestly. Like, I don't know. I just think technically Tavares is still far ahead of him. So I don't know. I'm looking for reasons to switch sides, but I'm still undecided on this one. I get the confidence, but I think Duplessis's real path is via KO. And if he doesn't get that and it goes to the scorecards, it's going to be really dicey because Brad does a good job kind of winning minutes. He's a good minute winner. And I don't know that Duplessis is that at all. I mean, he was getting pieced up by Marcus Perez in that first UFC fight. Maybe that's the jitters of coming into the UFC. And then Trevin Giles had moments against him too. And I mean, I really don't rate either of these guys highly at all. So it's just like, what are we going to see here? I mean, if Duplessis comes out and just starches him, would I be surprised? No. But if it goes 15 minutes, I'd favor Tavares. So it's like, I don't know. I'm still undecided. This is probably the toughest fight for me to call. I've gone back and forth. It's a close one, though. And I get backing the young guy here with the power. I mean, that's kind of been a trend lately. But yeah, if we're talking technical ability, Tavares, I think, still has an edge.
Yeah, and I mean, while that could be true, I'm not sure how wide that edge is. Duplessis, a wealth of experience. Also, I think the defense is, gone a bit overlooked. I mean, the 2 UFC fights thus far are not great, but I mean, we've seen him, in the past over the course of longer fights too, really settle in and prove he is a high-level fighter. So yeah, I see him getting his hand raised. I think Tavares is good, but not the type of guy to really string him out and make this a dogfight. Well, it could be a decision. I think Duplessis still keeps it clean enough to get a win if it does go that way. And otherwise, I think he's the more likely fighter to finish inside the distance.
I'll agree he's the more likely to finish, but yeah, I don't know. His style's just so weird. It's probably tough to defend against, but at the same time, it leaves a lot of openings. So I don't know. It's a tricky one for sure.
All right, the early prelims. We'll just dive into these 3 fights real quick. Middleweight, Uriah Hall taking on Andre Muniz. This fight's a little bizarre. I mean, Muniz is somebody who you would normally be able to trust. After these past couple fights, quick submissions, you probably want to back him again here. But I mean, a 330 against Uriah Hall, it's dicey, man. I mean, yeah, I would look the route by sub. I think you got to try and find plus money on this fight. Again, that is going to be the clearest path to victory for Muniz. I mean, Hall is somebody who always could land a big strike, find the finish that way. We'll have the advantage on the feet in this matchup, but you just got to think Muniz, pushing his high takedown average, looking to take this fight to the mat in every round that he can, and, being able to be the striker in Uriah Hall when it comes to more scrapping exchanges. That's probably my look. Either going Muniz by sub. The other look, I mean, you could take the dog money on Hall, but even the 3-1, it's currently paying that this fight sees the scorecards. If it is an underwhelming performance for Muniz, I could see these two going the full 15 minutes. But yeah, I just would advise against laying the straight through 30 on Muniz. I think that's a crazy fight or crazy price in a matchup like this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the line's too wide. I think Muniz is the side. I don't think Hall's ever been submitted professionally, so like that gives me a bit of a pause here. But Hall is just one of these guys, man, and we talk about them all the time. They just don't throw; they just stand there, and it's like it's so frustrating to back a guy like that. Hall is going to have a huge power advantage here. He's probably going to have a striking advantage here as well. But I mean, his takedown defense hasn't been great. And we were talking earlier about how Strickland's not some like world class wrestler. He took Hall down 4 times in their fight. I mean, Hall's takedown defense was really high early in his career, but we've seen it drop to 65% now. I mean, Muniz is averaging almost 4 takedowns per fight. I think if he gets him to the mat, he could find that submission, probably a head and arm choke or something like that, rear naked choke. It just seems like there's a lot of options for him here. And I mean, honestly, I was not high on Muniz coming into the UFC, but ever since he snapped Jacare's arm, I feel like you just kind of got to back this guy to get the sub against anyone. So I don't know. I'm taking Muniz here. Have we seen a price on Muniz inside the distance? Is it like closer to even money, maybe?
I mean, yeah, I think sub was, catching close to that. So I think that's what you could get. I think that probably is the look. And again, the odds makers are thinking this one does not go the full 15.
Yeah, I don't think it does either. I think if it goes 15, it could get dicey on the cards, but like, yeah, I mean, Hall barely throws. If he wins, it's probably by KO. And Muniz, I mean, it's the sub all day, but we've never seen Hall submitted. It's just Antonio Carlos Jr. is really the only BJJ player you could maybe compare to a Muniz. And I mean, Brunson was able to kind of ground and pound him. So I don't know. I like Muniz here. I think he gets it done by sub, but it's a weird spot. Definitely a weird spot at minus 330.
Rat line, fishy. I get no one wanting to put money on, the older Uriah Hall. But yeah, definitely a dicey one early on the card. Watch out for certain. Women's flyweight, a fight between Jessica Evil Eye and Lacey Barber. I'll let you get this one started. I know you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I'm not too high on either of these girls. Macy Barber had a ton of hype coming to the UFC, like way too much hype. She was kind of humbled a bit by Roxanne, and I don't know. She looked good against Maverick. She won that fight. I thought she lost. It cost me a lot of money, but she looked great last time out against Montana De La Rosa. And the thing about Jessica Eye is her grappling defense has just gone to complete crap. Like she really doesn't have it anymore. I think Barber should be able to take her down here on the feet. I'll have her moments, but I think Barber's just going to grind her against the cage, make it boring, work for takedowns, probably win a decision. I think she at least takes 2 rounds. What's the price? 285, 300. 300 feels a little disgusting to back Macy Barber, but I do think she gets it done, probably by decision, probably with 3, 4, 5 takedowns. Just working against the fence a lot. So Barber's the side here. I would not put money on Jessica Eye, but at minus 300, I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, I echo everything you said. I mean, Barber, nice bounce back with those 2 wins with Miranda Maverick and Montana De La Rosa. Both those girls I hold in higher regard than Jessica Eye. I think she should get the victory over Jessica Eye. I mean, Eye 3 losses in a row. This is probably 4. This is probably her last UFC fight. I mean, that's what this shapes up to. And yeah, I mean, disgusting at minus 300, but definitely the side in this matchup.
Yeah. And I know I'm going to tire into parlays and feel terrible about it. But yeah, Barber, you got to pick Barber here.
For sure. And then lastly here, a bit of a more competitive fight, this women's bantamweight matchup between Jessica Rose Clark and Julia Soliarenko. Yeah, I mean, this should be this is a tough fight to call because Clark is coming off a recent loss by submission. And Soliarenko, her best move is going to be that arm bar. So, I mean, there's certainly a path for her as the, plus 130 underdog in this spot. And, it's still a fight I'm not yet decided on just based on that one path to victory. But, I mean, other than that, you would think, Jessica Rose Clark to be the superior fighter elsewhere, the better striker, definitely able to put it together on the feet, look cleaner in the clinch, and, probably the rightful favorite. It is just a matter of if I think that armbar could be something she hits to break this 3-loss streak. It's not something I want to bet right now. I mean, the odds kind of have continued to shift, and if Soliarenko gets up to be an even bigger dog than this, I may take a shot. But yeah, I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, I think like there's like 4 or 5 consecutive opening fights have gone to the underdog, something weird like that. I'd have to double check that. I like Jessica Rose Clark here. I mean, I think the UFC is trying to set her up for a win. I mean, Stoliarenko's one path, like you said, is the armbar. I know there's concern because Rose Clark's coming off the armbar loss, but that was against Stephanie Egger, who kind of hip tossed her. She was on top of her when she scored that armbar. I don't think Stoliarenko is going to be on top of Rose Clark going for arm bars. If anything, it's going to be in her guard. I think JRC can probably score a few takedowns. She is going to be a little bit better on the feet. I think she can work her against the cage. She just has to be very, very, very careful. But it's such an obvious game plan. Like, it's such an obvious fight camp she probably had for this fight. Just protect your arms, stay out of arm bars, drill armbar defense every single day, and you should win here. Stoliarenko, 3 fights she's lost in a row in the UFC, and they're giving her another. I think they were like, okay, Jessica Rose Clark, how can we build her up a bit? Let's give her the girl coming off 3 losses. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, though, I don't want to back her at like 170, 160 or whatever it is. So yeah, Rose Clark's aside, she's my pick, probably by decision, but yeah, I can't say I'm super eager to place a bet on her.
Completely understandable. And again, for my final pick on that fight, as well as the others, they all will be available on Dine Sports come this Saturday morning. Again, our full card write-up, breaking down all 12 of these awesome fights. I mean, UFC 276 is shaping up to be a very fun card. I'm excited to watch it. I'm excited to check out these fights and hopefully make some money together. Nick, any last thoughts heading into this awesome card this weekend?
No, not really. Just it should be a fun one. Obviously, my picks will be in that Dines article as well. Gotta dig a bit deeper into that Tavares fight and a couple others. So yeah, should be a fun card. We get the press conference when this gets posted. It'll have already happened, so we'll be watching that tonight. But then weigh-ins. I mean, weigh-ins are the one thing to keep an eye on. I mean, if anything crazy happens, that could be a situation where we need to switch sides. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I think we have some really good betting spots, a couple decent parlay pieces, and yeah, I'm really excited for Strickland Pereira. I like that. I'm probably going to be taking your money on that one.
Oh, we'll see how long it takes me to collect after that one. But awesome. Well, it was fun breaking down the fights. I'm excited to watch them with you. Should be a great card this weekend, UFC 276. Thanks to everyone for tuning in, and again, be sure to check out our picks this Saturday morning, Dine Sports.